morning, everybody. It is so good to see you today on another Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. I so appreciate that you're able to join on these mornings, and I really appreciate all of you who watch later and contribute in the comments. It's a great time to be together during this very strange season that we have all been through in this very difficult time, especially right here in the Twin Cities area. I don't know if you're like me. Hi, Deb. Good morning. But I held my breath yesterday afternoon waiting to hear the verdict of this amazingly difficult court case and circumstance. And frankly, it was such a relief to hear what it was because I was so worried about all the people that would be hurt and potential all the property damage that would be caused. We've been through so much during this time, so much. And even in these ways, our ideas and our thoughts and our beliefs may have been solidified or challenged even. And I've thought about this so much in regards to how things were. Yep, Mary saying, praying for the city. How things were back in Jesus' day. If you think about the 3-year period that Jesus walked on this earth, so many things changed. And I'm not sure they all realized it during the time. So I wonder if this year is sort of like that, a liminal season in which things will change and we may not even realize it until we're on the other side of it looking back. You know, they say that we live our lives forward, but we learn about our lives by looking backwards. These journeys are quite challenging and difficult, so I really appreciate you staying with community, staying connected during this time, and I hope you'll remain so. I want to look at a story of a journey this morning for a couple of the disciples right after Jesus' resurrection, literally like the day of Jesus' resurrection. And this is the story of the road to Emmaus. And this is from the Passion Translation. This story has been bothering me in multiple ways. And I'm happy to say that because in the past of my life, I knew what I believed about it. I had been told what the correct answers were. And I'd move on, flip the page. But that's not what God is doing in my life with my heart. And frankly, I hope not with yours either. God is actually challenging me to drill deeper and dig deeper and look more carefully and be willing to lift my feet off the ground of what I think I already know and what I think I've already determined about many things and listen for possibly a new path, a new journey in some of these beliefs. So I want you to look at the road to Emmaus with me this morning for just a little bit. It's in Luke 24:13 through 35. There's a lot of words on the screen, so stay with me. Hi, Ann. Good morning. And Nancy. And Abigail. It's good to see you all. So here we are in Luke 24:13 through 35. Later that same day. Now, the same day means the same day that Jesus' tomb was found empty. This is the same day. Later that same day, 2 of Jesus' disciples were walking from Jerusalem to Emmaus, a journey of about 17 miles. They were in the midst of a discussion about all of the events of the last few days when Jesus walked up and accompanied them in their journey. They were unaware that it was actually Jesus walking alongside them, for God prevented them from recognizing him. I could preach this a long time. Hi, Kendra. Good morning. I could preach this scripture right here for a month. Maybe I will. I don't really know. But yeah, these are crazy times. And Jesus says to them, although they don't know it, it is Jesus, right? You seem to be in a deep discussion about something. What are you talking about? So sad and gloomy. Now, can you blame them? They just saw Jesus die on a cross, and they just saw the tomb empty. And based on what they know and they see, hi, Luann, about the world and about life, their logical conclusion is that Jesus died and now someone has stolen Jesus' body. Okay? Sad and gloomy. They stopped, and the one named Cleopas answered, haven't you heard? Are you the only one in Jerusalem unaware of the things that have happened over the last few days? And Jesus asks, of course, Jesus absolutely certainly knows, what things? The things about Jesus, the man from Nazareth, they replied. He was a mighty prophet of God who performed miracles and wonders. His words were powerful, and he had great favor with God and the people. But 3 days ago, the high priest and the rulers of the people sentenced him to death and had him crucified. We had all hoped that he was the one who would redeem and rescue Israel. There's their sadness right there. They had hoped for something, and because they couldn't see the whole picture, they didn't realize that what they hoped for was happening. They were stuck. And I get it. And I actually have some compassion for them, truly. They continue. Early this morning, some of the women informed us of something amazing. They said they went to the tomb and found it empty. They claimed 2 angels appeared and told them that Jesus is now alive. Here's that little kernel of hope, right? Some of us went to see it for ourselves and found the tomb exactly as the woman had said, but no one has seen him. I guess I think Jesus would be patient with them here, but in some funny way, Jesus is actually kind of not. Look at this. Jesus said to them, "Why are you so thick-headed?" It's a little harsh to you. It's a little harsh to me. Why do you find it so hard to believe every word the prophets have spoken? Wasn't it necessary for the Messiah to experience all these sufferings and afterward to enter into his glory? What do you think about that? About Jesus saying, "Why are you so thick-headed?" Maybe he said it with a different tone. Maybe the tone was, "Why are you so thick-headed?" I mean, how do you say that in a nice way? Well, so I researched this because it actually kind of bothered me. I was thinking, wow, Jesus, this is pretty harsh. This is pretty rough, telling people they're thick-headed because they're not catching on to something that is completely out of their imagination. I mean, every experience they had had prior, there had been other people who had wanted to be or said they were the Messiah, but every experience prior had turned out to be a bust. And so why would they think something new would be happening now? So I kind of get it. So I researched it, and I looked at as many translations as I could of this verse right here. And they all pretty much say thick-headed, but others continue with slow of heart. Slow of heart is a really important thing. And if you look at the original language, this original language that this was written in, slow, yeah, Mary, why can't you open your mind and believe in miracles? Well, let's keep talking. I agree. What else do you think about this? Please share this morning. I made the chat bigger so you could read it. So myself smaller, your words bigger. Hopefully that'll help you want to share. Slow of heart. Let's talk about that for a minute. Back in Bible times, the way of thinking about heart was very different from the way we think of it now. We think of you make a decision with your mind, your logic, or with your heart. Right? Have you ever heard somebody say, well, I just have to go with my gut. I have to, you're just thinking from your heart. You're not thinking logically. So we separate the two. We think that our gut and our emotion, our passion, our feelings can be separated from our logic. And there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe they can. But back in Jesus' day, they did not think of it that way. Okay? When the matters of the heart come up, it really means the center of hidden emotional, intellectual, moral activity. This is from Baker's Evangelical Dictionary of Biblical Theology, but I found this across multiple places. Heart really means every single thing that you are in combination. When you combine your logic and your emotion, when your passion is fueled and it makes sense to you, it all sort of can happen because every part of your body has embraced it. So I think what Jesus is really saying to them here is, you have not embraced this with your whole body. Your mind can't conceive it, and neither can your emotions. You don't know how to believe it because you can't imagine it logically. So when he says thick-headed, and other translations and original language continue in other places and say slow of heart, he's saying, there's really nothing about you yet that can grasp why this is possible. Why Jesus may actually be the Messiah and the risen Lord. And it's very intriguing that Jesus actually didn't let them see who he was, because watch what Jesus does with them. This is so interesting to me. They're having the transition between they're having trouble making the transition between the concrete beliefs that they have and the unreal, unimaginable possibility that it could be different. And so here's what Jesus does. He engages their logic first. He starts this way. And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he carefully unveiled to them the revelation of himself through the scriptures. Wouldn't you want to be in that conversation? Oh, I would. I would love to hear Jesus, hi Amy, rendition of what it means that Jesus was revealed through the scriptures. What an incredible conversation that must have been. I'm wondering, I'm going to ask you a question this morning, if you've ever been to a place like the Royal Gorge. Have you ever been to a really high bridge? Okay. This bridge I happen to have been to several times. And although when you're ready to walk out on this bridge, everything in your logic tells you that this is safe, right? Because who would build a bridge that you would fall off? Logically, this bridge is not going to fall based on your whatever pounds you are or how much cheesecake you had yesterday. This bridge logically is going to be just fine. But when you step out on this bridge, and many others like it, let me tell you what happens. It moves. Yep. And on really windy days, in Colorado, it moves a lot. And it's really scary. It's actually really, really, really scary. And no picture I could find to show you captures the depth of this. Any of you have ever been to the Grand Canyon or any place like that, you know what I'm talking about. If you've ever been up on top of the Eiffel Tower or any other giant place like that, you know what I'm talking about. The distance between the bridge and the ground is incredible. And so even though your logic tells you this is possible, I will not die if I walk on this bridge, something in most people's gut goes, whoa, when we step out to cross that, because your emotions tell you this bridge, well, maybe your logic too, this is moving, I'm going to fall, and my death is imminent, right? I'm going to blow off the bridge even. I think that most people really do prefer to stay on the solid ground, but for some reason, we're willing to take that adventure and cross a bridge that seems unstable to us when we go to places like this. We sort of like the thrill of it. But think about that in your own life. Think about that in the way you think. Yeah, Nancy, you've been there and it was windy? Same. Very windy. Horrifying. Think about this the same. What if your stability is shifting? I think we all prefer the stability of solid conclusions and solid beliefs about things that we've come to know. Like, for instance, what certain parts of the Bible mean. Or what we believe about ourselves and our world and other people in the world. Yeah, Abigail, it does make it look a lot safer than you remembered. I totally agree. You question. Good point. You trust the engineering, but you question your judgment. Absolutely, that's right. That's the point I'm getting to. We prefer the solid ground of saying, yep, this is what is true about God. This is what is true about people in this world. This is what it is. This is what I believe about, let's say, even controversial matters like politics or human sexuality or even systemic racism. We come to stable beliefs. And in our culture right now, there is this massive entrenchment on both sides of the bridge. This is what you believe, and this is what you believe. And crossing over that bridge to try to understand even the beliefs of the other side is destabilizing and horrifying. I'm going to come back to Emmaus, I promise. I think God may allow us to experience other kinds of unstable times in our lives so that God can reassure us that God's presence is always with us, even when we feel destabilized in our world, even when it seems as though the ground is out from under us and we may blow off of the bridge and fall to the ground. I think that is God's way of teaching us, letting us learn more faith by moving us into seasons of instability, say out in the middle of that bridge, where all of our solid beliefs and plans and all of that are not beneath us anymore. When God actually sort of lifts us airborne, if you will, on eagle's wings. Sometimes our certainties limit God's plans for us so much that I think God does allow us to be destabilized. We're so entrenched in what we've known and what we've done and how we've been, and we're so determined to remain there that I think sometimes God rattles it all out from under us just to show us that we actually can trust and we actually could change. I think, though, sometimes people run for the side they came from really fast if they get too far out on that bridge of learning or understanding. Sometimes we may choose to walk out of our own beliefs, to have a conversation that's about truly listening and incorporating and growing. I wonder if you're following me here. This is really deep thought this morning, and I apologize for that, but this whole season has called us to deep thought, I think. When we are ready, though, to learn something new, to see something in a new way, just like the disciples that day, both our logic and our emotion need to be engaged and maybe even released. When we step out on the bridge of uncertainty and say, God, I don't know what all this means. God, I've always believed this my whole life, but this is challenging that. Would you teach me more? In essence, we deliberately destabilize our beliefs and our thinking from the past so that we may learn anew. We walk over the bridge on purpose. I hear this kind of thinking in people, and this has so many applications. I was hesitant to even talk about it this morning because it's something I've been wrestling with and noodling on, for probably a good year or more. I hear this in people. I always believed this, but then I experienced this. My heart was changed, and then I did logical research, and then now I believe this. Some of you are people who have said that very thing to me in one circumstance or another. I also hear people say, well, God has certainly bothered my heart, my emotions. God has certainly bothered me to think about this in a new way, or to maybe live my life in a different way, or maybe perceive my world in a different way. But logically, I can't go there. Logically, when I do the math, when I read the black and white of what the Bible says and what I've always believed it to mean, even though my heart is pulled out on the bridge, my logic keeps me in my belief system where I am right now. I've even heard people say things like, well, it makes sense to me that this should be this way, but something in my gut just won't let me think differently about it. I'm staying over here, and I am going to stay with my beliefs. I'm going to stay where I am. When God does pull us or even push us out of our logical conclusions, or even encourage us to walk out of our logical conclusions, or even our purely emotional responses, we may feel lifted off the ground of uncertainty of what do I believe about this. We really do want things to be certain. We really do, but sometimes Jesus calls us to do something new and to learn something new. And I think that's exactly what happens with these disciples on that day on the road to Emmaus. Because once they have heard all of Jesus' talking about the logic of, don't you see the logic? Of course. Of course it was going to happen this way. Of course. Why do you think the tomb is empty? Of course the tomb is empty. What did Jesus, tell you? But then look what Jesus does next. Jesus engages them in a different way. As they approached the village, Jesus walked on ahead, telling them he was going to a distant place. Okay, that's just like the night at the Last Supper. I'm going away from you. John 14. I go to prepare a place for you. They urged him to remain with them. Do you hear echoes of that? Stay with us. It will be dark soon. All the metaphorical meaning here is just thick. And so Jesus went with them into the village. And then look what Jesus does. Can you imagine the emotion of the night of that Last Supper when Jesus was giving them the broken bread and the wine, and then he washed their feet, and he replicates that. He draws on their memory, their emotion. The experience that they had with him had to be a catalyst for massive heart movement and passion. He breaks the bread and he gives it to them, and then that's when it clicks. Jesus has walked with them and talked with them that entire day without them knowing it was Jesus. He lays out the logic of it, and then he opens their emotions to it. And all at once, it all clicks together. Heart and mind united in the way that we think about heart and mind as separate, united. And then their thinking can change. Then they can see it. Their eyes are opened. Jesus is trying so hard to reach them and to move them to a new reality. He needs them to move to a new reality in order for the kingdom to come. Look what's said very next. Stunned, they looked at each other and said, "Why didn't we recognize him? Didn't our hearts burn with the flames of holy passion while we walked beside him?" That's their emotion, right? He unveiled for us such profound revelation from the scriptures. That's their logic, right? Why didn't we recognize him? Why didn't we see this before? They go back to Jerusalem and they tell the other disciples that it's really true. The Lord has risen from the dead. He even appeared to Peter. That's verse 34. And then he tells them all the story of what happened on that road to Emmaus that day. I wonder if it's less about crossing a bridge to another side, but maybe moving on a path to a new reality together. What if the two entrenched ends of the bridge actually moved together and found a new place together? What if we were all willing to lift up from our preconceived ideas just a little bit, listen to the scripture again, listen to each other's words again, hear each other's experiences again? Would that lift us to a new reality? And could God be trying to lead us to that new way of thinking of things now? I'm wondering, has God ever walked you off a cliff of certainty to get you to a new way of thinking or a new reality? I know that's true for people in multiple ways. I know people who have stood on the solid ground of their bank accounts and found themselves suddenly in the middle of a moving bridge. Or the solid ground of their jobs, or the solid ground even of their marriages, or the solid ground of their health. And then God moves them to a place and says, see, you don't actually need even any of those things. What you really need to do is just trust me. I will be all that you need. Move out here. And I also wonder, is there any subject about which God has changed your heart. Now, I will tell you right now, in full disclosure and confession, I have held through my life different beliefs about some very important things, one of which is human sexuality, and another one of which is systemic racism. As a person of privilege, truly, I have not had to see what other people experience. And I have engaged in staying on my solid ground for a long time in avoidance of letting go of what I already concluded and believed, which wasn't horrible, but not okay. Not okay. Stepping out on the bridge of uncertainty. And actually, I think God shoved us out there, frankly. There are other things too. What about beliefs about the church? We have to meet in a building, right? Well, maybe not. Is there any subject about which God has changed your heart, which means your logic and your emotion, where God has used a time of uncertainty to bring you to a new place? And so what I also think is so beautiful about this passage is that Jesus shows up with these two disciples and walks and talks along with them all day. All day. Even though in the end he calls them thick-headed, slow of heart, he still takes the time to walk and talk all day. So I'm wondering, in your life, how might the Spirit be walking and talking with you about some of these things even now? It can be anything from, well, this is my job and it's all I'll ever be able to do, and this is what I do, to, well, this is just how it is and it'll never change, to, I can't imagine a better reality. I can't imagine that things will ever change. I'm going to stay over here on my safe ground of not imagining, because imagining that things are hopeful is much scarier, because then I have to take risks. I don't know if any of this is making sense to you today, and I hope in some way it is resonating with you, and some part of this is catching with you how Jesus walked and talked with the disciples all day to help them find the new reality, that there would be life for all. There would be grace. There will be a new way to live in this world. I'm wondering how hopeful you're willing to be that there's a new way. There is new hope. There will be new life. There are new beginnings. Are you willing to step out of the certainty and listen and learn? Be really ready to try new things and grow. I hope this has helped you to think about this, to process it a little bit. I hope I have made a little sense. Yes, Nancy, you've been walked off several cliffs over your lifetime, but knowing God was going to catch me got me through and made my faith stronger. Yes. I'm wondering if you're willing to step out on the uncertainty of, well, maybe all these things I've concluded aren't all completely 100% true. Maybe all the ways I've looked at and read the Bible, maybe the ways I've thought about this world and about myself in the world aren't all there is. I think these things open us up to the wonder of God, the wonder of what God might be doing and moving. Anyway, the way I'm hoping you will think about it today is really engaged with how is the Spirit walking and talking with you now. And so I have a song, and if you know this song, it's called In the Garden. We've used it several times lately because it's just so stunning, but think of it in this framework. What is Jesus saying with you as you walk and talk along? Because I think that story is in the Bible to set a precedent for us. Jesus, the Holy Spirit, will walk alongside us and talk with us, will help us engage in the questions, the wondering and the wandering. So how is Jesus talking with you? Beverly, thank you for sharing that comment. It's good to see you this morning. I want to say to you that yes, it is hard at age 88 to walk out on that bridge of uncertainty and question what you've believed or question what you've concluded about things. I totally get that. And that is actually something, I want to address this for a minute, that I actually wrestle with a great deal as a pastor. When people just need safety and certainty in their lives at certain points in their lives, when things are difficult, when things are hard, is it my role to challenge or to open or to question, or to lead them to a question? Is it? And so I hear you. At a certain point in life, and it's not just age, at certain points we just really yearn for that stability. And we're afraid that if we give on something, then all the bridge will fall out from underneath us. And I just think it's a beautiful thing when God will even hold us safe, even if we feel insecure in what we're thinking about. I wonder if that makes sense to you guys at all. But essentially the summary is change is hard. That's an understatement, right? What is God calling us to? Listen to how God is talking with you today. I encourage you to do that. Listen to how God is whispering to your heart and engaging your logic. Be willing to see it. Be ready to learn. It's good to see all of you. Much love to you. I'm praying for your day, praying for your journey, your walk. I know you're all on so many different journeys, and there's so much happening in our world right now. Praying that God will move us all to a better place together, that the kingdom may come sooner. Have a great day, everybody, and may it be so. See you soon.